Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this week I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, as you can probably hear from my voice, and so I wanted to keep it simple, and I wanted to talk about the Game Boy Micro. So the Game Boy Micro is this really cool version of the GBA, and this was released towards the end of the lifespan of the Game Boy Advance. And it's definitely the smallest form factor compared to all the other versions, and it's got this cool feature where you can take this faceplate out and exchange it with other faceplates. You can kind of, change the appearance of it. And unlike the other versions of the GBA, this version only plays Game Boy Advance games, so it doesn't play Game Boy or Game Boy Color games. So as you can probably tell from the footage here, it's clear that this one has a problem. So yeah, when you power it on, you can tell right away that the screen has been trashed. And you can also just kind of take a quick look around the console and you can see evidence of impacts. So this thing probably took some really nasty spill at some point in its life. The screen died and that was it. So a friend of mine gave it to me recently and asked me if I could fix it. And as it turns out, it's not that hard to fix these if you know what you're doing. So to this day, you can still buy replacement Game Boy Micro screens on eBay. And so that's exactly what I did here. And so I'm going to show you how to properly disassemble this console and install a brand new screen. Okay, let's get started. All right, so before you start working on a Game Boy Micro, it is really, really essential that you have the right tools. I cannot tell you how many times I've repaired one of these where someone tried to open it up using the wrong tools. They ended up stripping the screws, and then it's a real problem because these screws are very tiny. They're really hard to source, and a lot of times you just have to use a fine drill to drill out the heads because whoever tried to open it just used the wrong tools. So I really can't stress this enough. Don't attempt this unless you've got very fine Phillips screwdriver and a very fine tri-wing, and that's what I have here. I can't remember exactly where I picked these up. I think I got them as part of some kind of a kit, but I use them specifically for the Game Boy Micro because they're so tiny. All right, so let's get started with taking it apart. So on the edge of the console, you'll see a variety of tri-wing screws. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out. And then once those are all removed, you also have to just take out this one Phillips screw, and this is for the battery cover. And so normally I try to keep all of these screws separate just to make my life a lot easier. And so you'll see in a moment what we do next. All right, so I've gone ahead and removed the battery just so that I can more easily work here. And so you'll see that there's 6 screws here. There's these 2 larger tri-wings, there's 2 silver Phillips, and then there's 2 gold-colored Phillips. So what I tend to do here is just take a photo of how this is configured so that later on when I'm putting it back together, I can just match up where the screws go. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these 6 screws from the battery compartment. Okay, that took me a little bit more time, but hopefully you could see what I was doing, that if you have trouble getting the screws out, you can use a pair of tweezers like this and just kind of use them as like a point of like something to hold on to the screw post, and you can use that to help get it out completely. All right, so we're getting a little bit closer now, and so at this point you'll see that there are 2 more screws. There's one deep in this little recess over here, and then there's one over here. So we're going to go ahead and take those out. And again, keep them separate so you know where they're going. And I believe now this whole assembly should come out. Yep, it does. Okay. So you'll see here's the L and R trigger buttons, and there are 2 very tiny springs there. That's something that's really easy to fall out, so keep a close eye on all the parts that you have here because it's so easy to lose parts when you're working on a Game Boy Micro like this. And then I think lastly, this is the final screw right over here. And I think now the entire board is free. Okay, so at this point all the screws are out, so let's go ahead and take the system apart more. So you'll see that it's kind of made of 2 boards. There's like a little daughter board here which has the D-pad, and then this is the main PCB which has everything else. And so you kind of have to like pull it to the side a bit like how you're seeing me do here, and then you got to get this RF shield out. And it kind of just lips under the plastic over here. Just get that out of the way. And at this point, we're just about there. Okay, and you can also see there's a very tiny little PCB down here. This is for power, which is being held in place as well. There we go. And then finally, you can see the screen is also here, and it's being held in place with like an adhesive. So first thing I'm going to do is just disconnect the screen from two places. There's these little retaining clips that are holding it down in two places. So you can see there's a small one right here and a larger one here. So with my forceps, I'm going to just pull this up from the back very carefully and then just push. This is very much like the clips on the DS. And then here, I can probably do this with my fingernail. Maybe, well, my hands can't get in there. There we go. And now it's free. Okay, so now to get the screen out, you'll notice that it's totally encased in this plastic retaining clip. So to get that out, what we're actually going to do is remove the front panel here. So hopefully you can see this on camera, but there's actually two holes here, and you push in on these with something like these tweezers, and it opens up and sets the the front panel free. This, and these are changeable, as I had mentioned earlier. So you can just take this out. And now that that's done, this whole front piece should just fall away like it's done. And now we should have complete access to the screen, and we can go ahead and replace it. All right, so now that that screen is out, I'm going to go ahead and put in the replacement. And I'm going to cover it up as quickly as possible just to prevent dust from getting on it or fingerprints, because it is so easy to do that. And I really don't want to get anything on this thing. So we're going to go ahead and just put this in. And so now the screen is covered, so it's not going to get, my fingers aren't going to get on it and make a mess. And so now we're just going to go back in reverse and start rebuilding this thing. And that sounds easy, but it still could be rather tricky. So let's see how things go from here. All right, so before I really get into rebuilding, I also wanted to just call your attention to some stuff on the main board over here. I mean, first, it's just amazing how they miniaturize this thing and how very compact it is. But for those of you who have Game Boy Micros that don't power on, it's possible that one or both of the fuses have blown. So if you want to check that or repair that, there's two fuses. So on this side of the board, you can see over here it's marked as F1, and so this is fuse 1, and I believe this fuse is for the power jack over here. If you flip it over onto the back, there's another fuse over here, and this is fuse 2, F2. So you can use a multimeter and test continuity on both sides, and if you have continuity, then those fuses are good. However, if they're not, then they need to be replaced. And you can get that part. I know it's the same as the fuses that are used on a DS or a DS Lite. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the part number, but I'll take a look and see if I can find a link to give you guys in the description of the video. The last thing, too, is that if you're checking out Game Boy Micros and you see this little sticker over here, this sticker indicates whether there's been water damage in the console. So right now you can see it's white and pink, right? If this console is water damaged and water hits this, then this thing will turn all pink. So if you ever find one where this sticker is all pink, it's probably a good indication that you should stay away from buying it because it's been submerged in water and it's probably toast. All right, so I just figured I'd show you guys that while I have this thing open. So let's go ahead and rebuild it. Okay, so I'm at the point of attaching the new screen to the Micro, and just wanted to show you how the original screen is folded. You can see it's this really weird bend in the screen, and or the flex cable rather. So I think the way to do this is to have it sitting upright like this, and you want the white side facing you on the large connector. There we go. And then this much smaller one is really delicate. You have to be very careful. Okay. All right, that's all set now. So now it's going to have to bend in on itself to be installed properly. Okay, so after a rather long and excruciating process, I have fully reassembled this Game Boy Micro. And so as you could probably see, it takes a lot of time and patience to put these back together, just as much as it does to take them apart. So if you're doing this yourself, all I can say is take your time, make sure you remember which screws go where, and just be careful so that you don't lose any parts, since these little screws are really hard to replace. But I got this one fully reassembled, and now it's working perfectly again. So overall, I mean, this is really great because these consoles are hard to find, and you know, it's a shame when they have broken screens like this one. But it's great that we can now find replacement screens on eBay for, you know, $12, $13. So not bad at all. All right, so that's it for this video. If you guys like this kind of content, then consider subscribing to the channel. And I have videos out like this every Friday. And then, of course, if you guys have a console that you need repaired or modified, you can always reach me directly at oneuprestorations.com. All right, guys, so thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.